so much for coming out on this lovely fall evening. It's a really nice time to debut new art in the gallery. My name is Charlie. This is a gallery and frame shop, and we always try and keep it very dynamic and really appreciate all of the artists that grace our walls here. And pups too, we love the doggies too. It's always a dynamic space here, and I'm so thankful for all the artists that bring their work, their ideas, their creativity to our space. And thank you all for coming to witness it, because it's a conversation, it's a dynamic, goes back and forth, and it's really a joy to see that magic happen. So I'm going to kind of turn it over to the three artists tonight and let them really introduce themselves and talk about the art. But just by way of short introduction, The Nature of Things is a three-person show with Marla Allison, Alina, Nuebel, and D.A. Struble, Douglas. Secret name. They each have very distinct art and styles, as you can see. But what's so interesting about this show is the theme and the concepts that run throughout, and how each artist is working to those themes. And I'm gonna turn it over at this point. But thank you again so much for coming, and enjoy.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you everyone for being here. It's a pleasure to finally have this show together in this beautiful space of Healdsburg. My name is Marla Allison again. I come from New Mexico, and 4 years about now, I moved here. So this is actually like a 4th year anniversary welcoming home kind of celebration, it feels. And I am so glad to finally debut my artwork along with these amazing artists, Alina, Nuebel, and Doug Struble. I hope I'm saying your last name right.
Yes.
And we're here tonight to share the amazing show that we called The Nature of Things. The title is inspired by how we paint and how we reflect on our natural environments that are completely different in styles. They are different viewpoints of how we look at the world. I tend to really embrace the emotional aspect of my environment. I like breathing with the space. I like the trees and feeling that fog that's around me here in California. And I like to capture that essence in my paintings. And Douglas and Alina will explain their work as well. But I thought that by curating the show with Charlie, all of us together, that Douglas has this incredible way of breaking down the ways of thinking about painting. It's the thoughtful patterns of how a brain works, how life moves, and how it has a repetitive motion. At least that's what I feel from it. And Alina, your work is incredible because you have this beautiful, organic, natural, incredible texture that you add with the colors of nature. And I thought all together we have a completely different voice, different views of our worlds. And I think that's the incredible part of putting them all together in this space, is that they seem to work. They have this natural, organic flow of a human experience. The nature of things, the connection of how we experience this. The great part that I feel is my honest greatness of just standing here today after working with Charlie for many years of hopes and timing of how we get this show together. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, to be honest, in even just creating the paintings that are here today. They're many years of work and many years of build-up. And I just want to explain myself as an artist coming from New Mexico. I've been doing this work for over 16 years now. My first solo show was in 2016 at the Rio Rancho Library in Albuquerque, and I had a whole of 2 people show up, which was like, oh, well, somebody showed up. Yeah. That was the best part. That was kind of like, you know, it wasn't silence, it was seen. And later that month, there was a bunch of people that were coming in to do voting. So they all got to stand in line and see these paintings, whether they wanted to or not. They still saw them and they were stuck there to vote, but they were also able to have something beautiful surrounding them. And you know, after that second solo show at the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center in Albuquerque, 2017, that was huge. That was a lot of people, a lot of recognition, and a lot of artwork that filled this huge space. And that was an incredible experience. So as the years have gone on, they've taken me all around. And just to share my travels of how this spiraling world brought me to here, I was able to start in Abu Dhabi in 2016 with an artist residency for a month, following in Bristol, UK for a month. All the while, artwork was being put into various permanent collections, which I am so grateful for. The Phoenix Herd Museum, various places in Santa Fe, the Mayak Museum, Museum of Indian Arts and Culture. Kent University, I did a painting of the Queen, which somehow they loved and they wanted in their collection, which I thought, what a suiting place for the Queen to be in her own country. And I hope that she actually got to see it before she passed, because it was a year later that she, you know, graced the world into another world. And after that, you know, luckily I've been able to do this beautiful trip that was among 45 other artists, 31 countries represented, and here with us is my actual roommate that I met in Saudi Arabia, the famous photographer from San Francisco, Judy Reed, with her cute dog that she took outside. But she's an incredible photographer, and she documented the entire journey that all of us artists took. And it was, I mean, fortunate to meet her there and then to move here, and now she's a neighbor in a way that I still get to share these stories with, those experiences, the Brenda stories, the struggles and the goods and bads that have gone with showing artwork throughout New Mexico to here. And I still have galleries in, let's see, Scottsdale, Arizona, the Xanadu Gallery, Red Tail Gallery in Miami, Florida, Rainmaker in Bristol, UK, let's see, now Hammerfriar here in Healdsburg. This is the big one, because I get to debut this incredible new series called Exhale, Inhale, a set of 6 that has been, this is my biggest series I've ever made of my life. This is the biggest work that I have always wanted to make, but I never made the time. And I was working with this gallery in Santa Fe called Chiaroscuro, which is an abstract, huge space, and things just didn't work out. Timing, manager changed, and so he encouraged me to make my masterpiece, make the biggest thing of my life. And thanks to his prompting, I did, and it's get to be seen here now today with all of you. So this is, I mean, this is top-notch, great feeling to share this work and to share this space with all of you with the paintings. And I'll make sure to sum it all up, but I want to introduce my fellow artists that are in the show, and they would like to talk about their work as well. So let me introduce you to Alina, who can explain some of her art.
That's amazing, Marla. I haven't actually gotten to hear all of those stories before, so I was equally as interested as everybody in this. My name's Alina Nuebel. I am born and raised here in Sonoma County, born and raised in in Santa Rosa specifically. And the natural environment of this place has been very much it feels weird to call it my rock because it is made of rocks and trees and all of the other things that it is built out of, but it has been my sort of like guiding, it's what I orient to. Anytime I'm any other place, I'm always dreaming of coming back and smelling the way that the forest smells here and what the light feels like here and all of that. And all of my life, I have been enamored of the natural environment around me. And as I've grown up in this place, traveled to other places and returned, that process of identifying with this environment has become sort of also the inspirational font for a lot of the artwork that I make. I am by training, trade, and natural inclination a biologist. My full-time side gig to my artwork is that I work as a field biologist, a field technician with the Struble County Water Agency. So it's awesome. I get to spend a ton of time out in the outdoors, actually going out and appreciating the stuff that then becomes sort of transformed through my experience of it into what you see on the canvases here today. And that has been a truly amazing experience. The artwork that you see in the gallery here today that represents some of what I do in my studio is largely inspired by a lifelong fascination with lichens. Can I get a show of hands in the room, everybody who knows what a lichen is? You've seen one before. You've definitely seen one before, even if you don't know what it is. Keep your hands up. Who's heard that fun little jingle about like what is a lichen made out of? A lichen is
Sing to us.
Yeah, I shouldn't have called it a jingle. I don't want to actually get how do you get a lichen? Well, a lichen is a fungus and an algae that took a liking to each other. Anyone who's ever been to any nature camp as a kid around here has heard that one 1,000 times. But that's actually what really enamored me of them when I returned to this place and returned to this practice of creating art after I had gone through the process of becoming educated as a scientist. Because even though we can all sort of chortle about the fact that, an algae and a fungus took a liking to each other, what does that really mean? And do you know the names of any of the lichen that are in the world around us? We can probably identify a couple of them, but as a scientist, that was an area of field biology that I'd never really looked at. And so as an artist, I took that as an opportunity, as an invitation to explore the natural world around me, not through the lens of science, which has the scientific dogma that tells you how you should proceed to gather information and draw conclusions, which is reductionist and always seeks to refine your understanding of things at the smallest level possible to make things predictable. To instead of doing that, try to take the skills I had learned in observation as a scientist and reinterpret those through my artistic process of trying to attentively observe my subject that I admitted to myself that I knew nothing about. That's the foundation of science, is going, I don't know about that, let's find out. I wanted to do that through a more intuitive lens, particularly because as lichen is fungus and algae that took a liking to each other, we're looking at these objects in the world that are actually a synthesis of two completely different organisms. And that, to me, was a really magical thing to try to explore, not from a scientific perspective, but from a human perspective, from an intuitive perspective. So specifically because I didn't know anything about it, I was able to, rather than take a really illustrative approach to it, I was able to then better explore the tension between the scientific and the artistic. I have since learned a little bit more about lichen, but I have somehow managed to avoid actually picking up any hardcore textbooks about this, but the temptation does exist. But one other fun little fact that I've learned about lichen recently, and lichen, of course, I don't know how many, going back into the lichen lore, how many people know this, but Beatrix Potter, the author of that delightful children's series that probably many of us read as kids, Peter Rabbit, was actually also a lichenologist and was one of the first people to describe the fact that lichen is actually what is described in scientific terms as a mutualism, where it's two organisms that interact and coexist in a way that is mutually beneficial to both of them. that was a little detour. Anyway, the fact that it is a mutualism is part of what's really, really important to me, because in this day and age, so much of the narratives that we hear around us are all about competition and there never being enough, and how things are, like the narratives of collaboration are not quite as prevalent in our culture as they might be. And so this particular subject has taken on all kinds of connotations over time, as I use it as sort of a compass to orient myself about how do I want to conduct myself in the world. I want to conduct myself like a lichen, as I'm one part of a whole, and I want to be able to share that experience of sort of sinking into the observational process and accepting that I don't know anything, and using that observational process, observing the outside of myself, to also examine what I feel and experience on the inside too. And that together is what then gets processed out onto the canvas. So as you go through this today, I hope each and every one of you, when you stop at any of our canvases, will take a moment as an audience member to not just glance at it and move on to the next one, but to truly just sit, take a deep breath, and spend a moment with every piece of art that's in here. And have a moment within yourself to ask, who am I in relation to this object? What does it remind me of? What experience am I having through this process? What is the artistic process mediating in me as this, what each one of us does sort of spirals out into the world and affects each of us, and what we might wake up and think about tomorrow. So, enjoy the show. I'd like to introduce Douglas Struble, this incredible artist over here who has done these magnificent, highly patterned, highly abstract pieces of artwork that I'm so excited to be showing with this evening. Take it away, Douglas.
All right, thank you. So my name is Douglas Allen Struble, thus the D.A. Struble, which you see on the wall. I grew up on a farm in Loomis, California, if you know where that is, up in the foothills. It's a mandarin farm. It's called the Struble Ranch. You can check it out. And so I grew up the oldest of 3 children, and I was the messy handwriting poet because I couldn't draw very well. My sister was always the artist. I didn't really discover I was an artist until I went to UC Davis, and then I was like, oh my gosh, like this is what I want to do all the time. This is what I want to be. This is, yeah, that creative spark that I found making art. Yes, and so I'm still doing it. And most of my fellow art students are not. But I'm still doing it, so that's what's good. And so I was just thinking about that time, and I had a really amazing mentor named Harvey Himmelfarb. He's a photographer at UC Davis, and he, in many ways, was super insightful. And he told me this story once. He was looking at my artwork and giving me a critique, and he kind of got to the mystery of my work, this foundational mystery of my work. And he always was telling stories, and he was like a history. He knew everything about photography. He's like, Doug, you work at the newspaper, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a photographer at the newspaper. He's like, you know, there used to not be photographs in newspapers. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, but now there is, you've seen them, right? And I'm like, yeah. Well, how do they do that? It's a halftone process, right? So they take the grays and they make just basically dots, right? So when they were inventing this process, he was telling me, they knew that they're gonna have to take out absolute black and absolute white, because it's all grays. So the size of the dot is making the gray. Your eye looks at the work and then it makes that gray, but it's actually just dots and white background paper. But one thing that they didn't know when they were making this halftone process is that when the dots and the white area are the same percentage, the middle part, the 50%, 50%, your eye does this weird thing where it goes negative, positive, where you can't see you can see the positive, but you can also see the negative part of it, and they didn't expect that. So they took out the 50-50 part, so that gray is never depicted in a newspaper. And he said, that's the spot that you're aiming for in your work. You're trying to get to this place that's like right on the edge, 50-50, where the mind or the eye kind of flips it from one side to the next. And he was right. It is, that's where I'm shooting for. I'm shooting for this kind of recognition line, this line of recognition. And I'm actually really, I don't know if obsession is the right word, but it's close. I'm really interested in perception. I'm really interested in how we perceive things. I'm interested in how the mind makes sense of the pattern. We're pattern recognizing machines, and we're hardwired to recognize and to see patterns and see what that means to us. And so I'm creating these environments, or these images, which are based on those principles, those Gestalt principles. Like, if the nature of things for me is about the Gestalt. I don't know if you know what Gestalt is, and I'm not going to give you a big lecture about Gestalt, but Gestalt is like where it's where all the parts come together to be larger than the parts. Or I'm totally murdering this definition. The whole is more than the parts, exactly. So there's a lot of little parts to these, and there's a specific process, which I'll talk about in a second, and they're also symmetrical, because the mind likes symmetrical things. For the pattern to the noise that's there. And also in all my works, you'll see these nets or webs. And I've been painting these for like 20 years. But the nets or webs I call them Gestalt nets, because they don't touch. There's no crossing points. The vertexes are not there, because your mind and your eye will make them into a net or web. They'll connect them. And so I really like that idea that they're actually made in your mind, not on the wall. And so, cognitive science is something that I'm really fascinated by. I'm not a scientist, I'm a designer, but a user experience designer, so I have to understand how the mind makes sense of a screen or an interface or something like this, and that obviously is influencing the work as well. The only other thing that's kind of been seminal in all my work is this idea of, obviously I'm very, perception, I guess is another P word, but perspective is also another important thing for me, influenced me early on. And in all of the works that you'll see here, there's kind of a recipe that I wanted to kind of point out. And so what it's based on is Chinese art, actually, Chinese landscape paintings. When they're portraying a depth, there's a foreground, a middle ground, and a foreground. It's very theatrical, just like flat plains. And it's not the point perspective that you have from the Renaissance. There's these planes that are there. So all the works that you see here will have those three planes. So there's a background, and the other thing about it is that everything that I'm depicting in these paintings is born out of the process and is born out of my hand or my imagination. I'm not going online and finding images to copy or any of that. It's all, I don't really know. The beautiful part about this is that I don't know what's going to come until it does. And so it's as much an exploration and discovery for me as well, into my perception and my abilities to be able to depict things that aren't real. But the three processes, and I'll try to make this brief, but I'm using masking or tape. And so these pieces are actually generative. That's the mother piece right there for this portal series that you'll see in the other rooms. And so I'm making this piece and I'm using tape to mask off parts. The foundational level is I'm using tape. And then I'm taking that tape and I'm putting it on my wall. If you were in my studio, I'd have this, and you've seen it. I've got a wall of tape behind my canvases from all the pieces I pulled off. That tape I'm reusing and following pieces. So they have strange shapes in them, and I'm basically constructing this pattern, and that's creating the foundational level that's there. And then typically on top of that, I'm putting the nets or the webs on top of that. And then that net or web, in this piece specifically, is actually covering the piece behind it by about 20%, 30%. And you can depict onto that net. It's like if you were to hold up lace or a net and project onto it, it's kind of the same idea. So there's literally three planes of perception that you're looking at that are all smashed together that were influenced by the Chinese thing. And this is more in semantic end, but the idea is that a new idea or Gestalt idea is based on having at least a minimum of three other ideas or three other perspectives kind of sandwiched together, if that makes any sense. So it's very intellectual, but the only other thing I wanted to say is that, like I said, the process itself is deriving the marks and the patterns that are there. I hope you like them, and if you have any questions, let me know.
I love going to these art talks and hearing from the artists and interacting with collectors. And I want to say thanks to all of you for being here and sharing your time and making the time to actually hear us talk about our work, because it's important for us to be able to share our work and to share the descriptions of it. I mean, you get to hear like where we come from, and you get to feel that and understand that. If you choose to take a painting home with you, you know that that piece has its story and its creator, and you get to be a person in that experience rather than buying online or buying in a different way. So I want to say thanks for physically sharing the time with us, and to know that and for us to know that you get to carry these stories further. So it builds us up as well to know that this many people showed up, heard our story, and that we could at least just share this experience. And I want to make sure that I say a big thank you to Charlie and to Glenn for hosting us here at Hammerfriar. The show is up until, come up here, Charlie. Just so you know, this is the person that you talk to get the red dot for the pin you're taking home. So, in case anybody's curious, this is the face that will give you the receipt.
I'm gonna write up those receipts.
So thank you all for being here, sharing some time, and enjoy. Well, we can do questions in person.
Yeah.
So yeah, help yourself to the wine.